Hey, so last month I was able to pass HSK 5. So this video is all about how to prepare for the test if you only have 6 weeks. When I started studying for the test, I thought about how can I use the 6 weeks I have in the best possible way without wasting my time on anything I don't really know. I was actually doing some research on the internet to find the best strategy to do that. And unfortunately, I found a lot of good content to prepare for HSK 5, but I didn't really find a strategy, a recipe of how to proceed. So I want to show you over the next couple of minutes what things you definitely should do and what you should do first, and things you don't really have to do or which you maybe even should avoid. Before we start, I just want to give you some criteria which is from my point of view important to really pass HSK 5 in only 6 weeks. Because on the one hand, you really have to have this mindset to do it. If you're not motivated enough to sit down every day and study, this won't work. Since HSK 5 is actually a pretty high level in comparison to HSK 3 or 4 or whatever, you should really be willing to download all this knowledge into your brain in a very short period, and this actually takes a lot of perseverance. So you really should make sure that you have a reason to do it, and it's actually, as I see it, positive to have some pressure, but not too much, not only from inside but also from outside. The second step is you should already have a certain level of Chinese. From my view, it doesn't make any sense to skip from HSK 2 or HSK 3 straight to HSK 5, since it's just a huge difference. If you're around the level of HSK 4, I think it might be possible that you can pass in only 6 weeks if you really want to do it. The third and also very important thing is the time. So I think you should be willing to spend at least 4 hours a day to work and to study Chinese. This is like an average of, okay, so for example, you have 1 day free, you can spend the entire day and then maybe take the next day off. But in the end, you should make sure that you really do all the stuff, at least to have a chance to pass. Because this video is not about getting 100%, it's more about just passing. So, this brings me to the learning material I'm going to recommend to you. First of all, we have the Hanyu Shuiping Kaoshi 5 HSK 5 Standard Course 5 Shang and Xia. Both books are very important because together they have a total amount of 36 chapters and cover, I would say, like 80 to 90% of the vocabulary you need. Also, I recommend to you the workbook of HSK 5 Standard Course. I only had Shang, but you can maybe also buy Xia, because inside there you have very good exercises to actually practice exactly the same things you're going to do in the exam. You should definitely get some test exams. In the internet there's a huge database, you just have to Google for it, but there are also books you can buy full of mock exam, test exam, practice tests. So that's the best way to prepare for the test, because again, the only goal you have is to pass this test, not to be a perfect Chinese speaker or writer. So this brings me to the time schedule, because that's a very important point in the limited amount of time you have until the HSK 5 exam. I divided my time into 2 periods. The first one is the study period, in which you try to get all the knowledge into your brain, while the last period and the smaller period is the practice period, in which you just try to apply all the things you've just learned. Okay, what are you going to do in the study period? The study period consists of 36 days. And 36 is the exact amount of chapters you have in the HSK 5 Standard Course book. So altogether, you will do on average 1 chapter a day. Sometimes I did 2 or 3, which is like very advantageous, so you can take 1 day off or something. But if you do 1 a day, it's already very good, and you should just keep it up until the end. After that, you will start over with the practice period in which you will take the mock exams. You will take one after another and you will practice until you die. Okay, I just talked about the practice period and about the study period. While the study period is the most important thing, I'm going to show you what methods of learning you're going to use in this period. As I already mentioned, the textbook is the one thing you're going to do every day during the study period. Every day in the morning you wake up and you make a new chapter. So you open up the book and there's a couple of things I want you to do in this chapter, because obviously there's a lot of content, and if you're really serious it will take a little longer, but if you just want to do one chapter a day, this is the way how it can work. You first start with just reading the text, okay? Read the text as fast as you can, as fluent as you can. I want you to understand as much as possible, and also I want you to read loud, okay? So you just try to read it all. And if in the end you didn't understand a thing, it's alright, it's no problem. The thing I want you to practice every day is just like making this really uncomfortable move and just like reading it from the beginning to the end. So after you did this, you continue to the second step. And the second step is you watch on the other side. Like, you see it here. Every page has just like two columns. On the one hand you have the text, and on the other side you have the vocabulary. For the vocabulary you have to make sure to only study the relevant vocabulary, because your goal is to pass the test, not to be the greatest Chinese speaker in the world. Okay? So there are those vocabularies with a point. Those vocabularies you can use kind of highlighter and you can mark them all because you won't need them, okay? So everything which is in yellow you just won't need. So then you have a couple of other things. For example, you have names. Of course you don't need to learn the names for the HSK exam. So you just take another color and mark all the names inside the both columns, so in the text and also in the vocabulary, so you make sure you don't study them. And then, after you did this, you go through all the other vocabularies which are left, and then you take this green color. Green is for good. Green makes sure you have to study them, okay? So those are all the relevant HSK 5 vocabulary which are new. So if you know already some vocabulary of the new vocabulary, don't study them, okay? So if, for example, I already knew Bali, like glass, in like my first semester while studying Chinese. So right now when I prepared for HSK 5, I didn't learn it again because I do it. You really just want to save your precious time. So after you just mark those with the green, you have like from 50 vocabularies only 20 left, maybe like sometimes only 8, sometimes it's like 30, but you have like a short amount of vocabulary, and that's already a good thing. So let's come to the third step. In the third step you're going to read the entire text again, but this time in the contrary version as in the first time. Read it very carefully, try to make sure you understand every word, and then you go sentence by sentence, word by word, and try to translate it in your brain, okay? So in the end, after you finish the second time reading, I want you to understand the text so you can talk about in your own language about somebody what this text is about. To do this, there are two apps I can recommend you, you probably already know. On the one hand there's Pleco, because Pleco is a very good dictionary which is like has actually every character nearly I need, and you can type it just with your hand if you use your touchscreen. And on the other hand there's Line, and Line Dictionary has a big advantage of giving you a lot of example sentence. For example, if there's a word and you already know a word which has the same meaning, you just go online and you read a couple of sentences, and in the end you may realize if it's like actually a synonym or just a different word and it has a slightly different meaning. So those are the first 3 steps, and then you just continue with the book and you do the grammar part. Like every chapter has 2 to 3 grammar tasks. So in this grammar task you are just going to learn them and you try to do all the tasks, okay? Like those are not too much, but sometimes it's pretty hard. And if you don't know the answer, that's not a problem. You just try to find the answer, you just try to write something. Because if you're sitting in the exam and you don't know the answer, what are you going to do? You're not going to keep this blank, you're just trying to write something that might be right. But you're not 100% sure, that's no problem, because you have another color. You just take orange for all the things in the book you're not completely sure about, so you have marked them for later. And at some point after that, you can just ask your Chinese friend or whatever to check this if it's right or not. Okay, so that's the grammar part, and after that you go over to the exercises which are in the end of the book, and I would just recommend you to do most of them. I think the last exercise in the book is something about summing up the whole text. I think that's something you can just leave out because it's not very efficient. It may sound a lot, but it's actually doable if you really push yourself to not waste too much time. And it's something you can do and you will get used to, and the progress you're going to experience is pretty high. Okay, that might sound overwhelming, but that's actually the way you go for the first part. And after 36 days, you will feel very good because you finally finish the 36th chapter of the book and you finally finish the entire HSK 5 standard course, whatever the name is. Okay, at that point you might think I got it all, but that's not true. Somehow in this book there's not all HSK vocabulary inside. And I don't know about the grammar, but I think most of the grammar should be inside. So I want to tell you, if you do all the books, you won't have all the vocabulary. But from my perspective, it's enough. I think it's about 80 or 90% of the entire HSK 5 vocabulary, and that's enough to pass the test. So from this point on, I just want you to get the knowledge you have right now and make it usable. So you just pass the past 36 days to just download knowledge into your brain. But now you somehow also have to apply it to the vocabulary for the exam. So before you do that, like the first day your practice period starts, I want you to go through the entire book again and mark all the grammar you don't have a clue about. Because every chapter only has 2 or 3 grammar parts, so you just take another highlighter and then you just mark them. Like if you see the grammar and you think, okay, I kind of get it when I read it, it's alright, you don't have to mark it. But if there's grammar which you in the past 30 days read about and you also applied it, but you already forgot everything, just try to put this grammar part in one piece of paper or one Word document, so you have it all at one place. And this is just the thing you should do right now, because right now you have 6 days before the exam or whatever, how much time you have, and in this time you still have the possibility to learn some new things, to just put it all in your brain in time. But a couple of days before the exam, that will be very hard. After that, you continue with the practice exams, with the mock exams. So you just download them, you just print them out, and then I want you to do 2 things. If I just suppose you still have 4 hours of time every day, maybe you should just take some days off and even study longer. You just try and try and try again. So there's a lot of content in the internet, for example for listening exams. And you should measure yourself. For example, if you start doing the listening exam, you got only 40%, don't worry, I had the same thing. You still have a lot of opportunity to pass the test. So you just do it over and over again and you gradually get better. So make sure you understand all the exercises in the HSK 5 exam. Make sure that it's 100% clear, I can't stress this enough. And then you should, on the one hand, practice on maths, as much as possible, for example if you have weaknesses in reading, and also on the other hand you should practice under real conditions. That means you should time yourself. You should first do the listening exam, you should not eat or something or have a break or something, and after you have the reading exam and you have exact same amount of time, because time is actually the most important thing during HSK 5. So those are the things I recommend you, which are the major parts. But now I just want to come to the little parts which actually really helped me to give me the last 2% or 3% I needed to pass. Because those are the little things you do in your everyday life which gradually helps you to improve your Chinese without even knowing and with even maybe having fun. So those are the small things like listening to podcasts. So when you're going grocery shopping, when you're sitting in the subway, whatever, you just get your headphones and you listen to something in Chinese which is around your level. There's a pretty easy way to do it. You just open your Spotify or your Apple Music and you type in Chinese. And then at the podcast category there will be tons of podcasts. So you just like listen to a couple of them, you see what is good. Don't take super easy stuff. Just take things you barely understand. That's the best way. And on the other hand, there's a very good YouTube channel I recommend. I don't get any money for them, I just really like them. It's called Mandarin Corner, and Mandarin Corner really took all the effort to speak all the Chinese vocabulary from HSK 5 into a YouTube series. So when you start sleeping, you can just like open those videos and just let them play the entire night. Maybe you're this kind of person that works that way, that you like the next day remember some of them. I don't know if it worked for me, but that's also very helpful because she actually created an example sentence for each word. So if you have the time somehow in between while cooking, just listen to this. Then the next thing I can really recommend you is to learn in a creative way. For me, for example, I just started drawing the vocabulary that was just not able to get in my head. For example, there were some new nouns I had never heard before, and both characters it consists of were like pretty similar to some other characters, but those characters I didn't know. So like I just didn't have the capacity left in my brain to remember them. So what I did, I took a post-it and I drew a picture which was actually write this word, and I put it on my wall. And in the end I had a couple of them, I can show you here. And it's actually a good way because like your brain is just tricked. It's a fun thing, but actually it's just learning Chinese, so yeah, you did a good job teaching your brain. Then the next thing is watching Netflix or YouTube. Like there are a lot of like Chinese channels on YouTube and also a lot of Chinese movies on Netflix. You can maybe use a VPN if you have that, and then you have access to a whole world of Chinese entertainment. And of course you maybe don't understand this, but do it. Just watch it. When you're this kind of person watching Netflix before sleeping, watch some Chinese Netflix. If you don't understand, it's okay, but that's something you really have to live with if you wanna step forward in your progress. So don't take English subtitles, that doesn't help you. Just take Chinese subtitles and do it. And then like the last thing I can recommend you is reading. For me, I didn't read a lot because if I already every day just like work and beside that study Chinese, I already read a lot at the day, so in the evening I don't want to read a book in Chinese, that's like just too much. But if you really want to, just read. There are a lot of there's a lot of content out there, there's a lot of books you can buy which is actually just designed. They have some novels, they have some short stories on HSK 5 level, so just grab them and read them. It's a very good method. Those are the minor things you can do to improve your Chinese. That's something you don't have to do every day, but that you can do, that you can implement into your free time over your day. So if you did all of this over 6 weeks, you can be pretty proud on yourself. Because of course you made a lot of progress in this time. You may not pass, that's not for sure, but you of course did a good step into the right direction. And what I want you to do one day before the exam, or maybe at the same day, is to relax. That's what my teacher always said in high school. One day before the exam, you shouldn't continue to learn anything else. So when I was in high school, I actually started learning one day before, so I didn't really have the opportunity to do nothing. But if you really did this program of like 6 weeks just studying, I think you should be able to take one day off right before the exam, just to give your brain some rest. And at the day of exam, make sure not to study from 5 AM in the morning. You should get enough sleep, you should have a good breakfast, and make sure you're hydrated. And if you follow all the steps, I'm pretty confident you have a good chance to pass. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I will do my best to answer all of them. So I can just wish you all the best and good luck for your exam. Bye.